For those of you listening, Elon Musk has joined the pod. Elon, how's the first 6 weeks been, generally speaking, of owning Twitter?
It's been quite a roller coaster, which obviously you've...
To help them understand how some of these decisions get made and why moving quickly is so important and just how you're doing this.
And he said that their followers are inflated by just basically buying a bunch of follower accounts.
Views thing is huge. That's why I
こんにちは。テスラ全力チャンネルのタイツです。すっかり年末モードですが、このチャンネルは年末年始もテスラとイーロンマスクが動き続ける限り情報発信をし続けてまいります。さて、前回イーロンマスクが経営者として大事にしていることについて解説しましたが、今回はその続きとしてツイッターの経営方針やどうやったらイーロンマスクのように振る舞えるかについてイーロンマスク自身が解説しているのでご紹介したいと思います。
Crypto scams.
I'm not seeing any anymore. Freeberg, you had a question.
Yeah, just on your earlier question, Elon, when you first started making changes at Twitter after you bought the business, a lot of people took notice at how extraordinarily swift and significant those changes were.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of technology companies that have CEOs and investors and boards, and we all talk to a lot of them, and they're all now having a conversation like, look at what Elon did at Twitter. How can we do something as aggressive, as swift, as deep? Do you think much about kind of the model you're playing for other businesses and other business leaders, particularly in Silicon Valley, and how you're operating Twitter? Do you ever talk about that? Because I know you mostly talk about your business and you talk about the businesses you're running, but you're having a big influence, I think, in how other people kind of act and behave that are other business leaders and run other technology companies.
To be frank, I'm not really I'm thinking about that much because I'm just thinking about like how do we I just get Twitter to be in a financially healthy place and fix the engine of engineering so we can have a rapid evolution of new products. And I guess I'm in sort of in some ways an unfortunate position where I don't have to answer it. It's not public and we don't have a board really. So I can just go and I can take actions that are drastic. And obviously, if I make a bunch of mistakes, then Twitter won't succeed, and that'll be pretty embarrassing and sad. But as long as, like I said, as long as the batting average is good, that the wins significantly outweigh the mistakes, then it'll be a great future. And I think I'm very optimistic about where things are headed.
I think a lot of people want to talk about or understand, Elon, your position on freedom of speech and your principles. I'm curious, you've been pretty upfront about it. How do you think about it post-acquisition? What speech should be allowed on the platform? Kanye came back. He just went insane. His account got revoked. What have you learned, I guess, now that you own it? Because you must be getting a lot of inbound from people asking you, hey, how are decisions going to be made, et cetera. You've been clear. Transparency is super important in this, but maybe what are your thoughts on free speech and speech on a platform like this?
The general principle, I think, is that we should hew close to the law in any given country. So the laws vary quite a lot by country. And so I think we should be doing free speech that's close to the law. And that's a general principle. I think there are other things where it's, okay, like, for example, like if you're an advertiser, you don't want your ad, so let's say it's a family movie, next to some NSFW content, even if that content is text. It's like, they'll be like, that's part of what, like, so there's more of an allowance for what some might call hate speech on the system, but it's not going to be promoted. It's not like we're not going to be recommending hate speech. It's just at risk of stating the obvious. And we're not going to monetize hate speech or negative speech. Like that's, nor would advertisers want us to. I think it's going to be a rare product that wants to be next to seriously negative stuff.
I was going to say, you referred to it as, hey, freedom of speech, but not reach, because this is a very nuanced discussion. Like, should this stuff be able to hit the trends and that kind of stuff?
Yeah. It's certainly possible that some things that will be regarded as hate speech will hit trends, but I think it's going to be relatively unusual, especially as we are doing a better job of controlling the bots and trolls situation. And I do want to emphasize, like, there's a difference between the bots and the trolls. Like, bots are like fully automated accounts, but like a troll farm would be where you've got 100 people in a warehouse somewhere, each with 100 phones. And so they're actually humans, and they're going to pass a CAPTCHA test, and they can reply and they're because they're actually got humans, but it's actually 10,000 accounts that are just obviously not operating as real people. So that's stuff like that can cause things to trend negatively. That's why I'm like a big proponent of having just a low cost verification capability. And but this is definitely a work in progress. So there's, like I said, there's going to be, and I did, one of the first things I said after the acquisition closed was like, we're going to make a bunch of mistakes, but then we'll try to recover from them quickly. And that's what we've done. And I think we've generally succeeded in recovering from them quickly. And it's been going pretty well.
Was the Paul Graham and journalist suspensions mistakes? Have you talked about this publicly, about how that all got resolved at the end?
Yeah, Paul Graham suspension was definitely a mistake. And I actually called Paul Graham to apologize personally for that one.
Did. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. On the journalist front, I think the journalist suspensions were not a mistake in that for some reason, a bunch of journalists thought they were better than everyone else, and that if they engage in doxing and break the rules in various ways, that they're not subject to suspension, even though your average citizen is. And I think that's just messed up. The same rules should apply to people who call themselves journalists as to anyone else on the system. They shouldn't be above the rules. For some reason, they thought that they should be. That doesn't make sense. I don't think that's right.
Yeah. And the rules being transparent and upfront, I think that's what everybody's looking forward to. Maybe some just complete clarity and transparency. And you've said from the beginning, when somebody gets suspended or this shadow banning or this sort of tips into this really weird stuff that we discovered you discovered, or the journalists discovered during the Twitter files, it's a bummer that people are being sanctioned or shadow banned and they don't know it. If we're going to have a system, the rules should be clear to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So something I've committed to, and we'll I think probably be able to roll that out in January. Just by the way, there is like a bit of we are not going to be rolling out a ton of new features over Christmas and New Year's and stuff. So there's like a next sort of feature set will probably roll out mid to late January. And hopefully in that, we can include information about why an account is suspended or has what is called within Twitter visibility filtering, aka shadow banning. And some of these things.
Let me ask you just a slightly broader question. One of the things we just talked about was the regime change that's happened, where we all have to act differently now that the risk-free rate is probably going to get to 5%. And I'm just curious, across all your businesses, so Twitter, yes, but really more importantly, Tesla, SpaceX, are there decisions that you will make differently or not at all, or will make that you wouldn't have made otherwise in this new regime? And how often do you think about that kind of stuff?
いかがでしたでしょうか？長すぎて2部構成と言ったのに、急遽3部構成として編集している点ご容赦ください。第3部はこれまでと違って2023年の株式市場の展望をイーロン・マスク自身がかなり踏み込んで予想し、テスラの経営方針についても語っています。個人投資家としても投資方針に関わる重要な核心部分に触れておりますので、ぜひ皆様にも聞いていただきたい内容なのでご覧いただけると嬉しいです。もし動画の内容が気に入っていただけたら、チャンネル登録と高評価、通知ボタンを押していただけると大変励みになります。Twitter もやっていて、毎日テスラやマーケットのことをつぶやいていますので、テスラ全力チャンネルと検索してフォローしていただけると嬉しいです。それでは次回の動画でお会いしましょう。ご視聴ありがとうございました。バイバイ。